叫这个人走开点。这个人，你在这拍，把所有的镜头全都破坏了。你能不能让一下？
大陸啊，大陸，中國大陸。係。搞震，搞震。係啦。呢個發嚟呢啲乜嘢？他们这个进来不跟咱们这个地方还有那么多不管，要咱要说打了吧，没事没事，打了吧。打了吧，保安上前打救他，打救他。这个现场发生了激烈的冲突哈，反对亚裔歧视的拿招牌的人，全部挡住了这个拿这个招牌的啊，这个互挡 CCP 好，激烈冲突，好。好，把他标语给撕掉了。这么多人啊，最后啊，警察过来把这两个分割开了，完全分割开。哎，这怎么回事啊？他们来表达这个反对亚裔歧视的，但是这个拿的标语完完全全不一样哈，完完全大家可以现场我全部录下来了啊，不一样的标语。所谓的这就是政府官员啊！我旁边呢是齐鲁商会的中原会长， 还有这个区结兵啊，议员区结兵也到场了，看一下。这个中间镜头对准这个啊，穿长筒靴的是省议员区结兵啊。镜头中。
little bit back.
Okay, this is-
Yeah, perfect. There, that's good. Come on, sit down.
省议员区结兵啊，是穿长筒靴的，也来会场支持啊，支持会场。
看你又发火了，你妈的，给我踩坏了，把我踩坏了。
我把镜头拉近一下哈，看一下这几个政府官员啊。这个啊，戴花色口罩的是省议员区结兵啊，这是他的助理。我也签一个名，再闭一下，谢谢啊！谢谢，对，人都看不见了啊！真的啊，我也看不见。哦，我看到。这是签上我的名字哈，哈哈。
What will you do?
好了，终于音乐停止了，我给大家做一番旁读哈，因为毕竟音乐太响啊。今天这场聚会是反对歧视亚裔的一项大型聚会，这是在温哥华周日的下午2点开始的。那么刚开始会场还没有开始正式开始的时候，进行了一场非常激烈的冲突。当然，没有肢体冲突，没有整体冲突，这是发出亚裔的呼喊，也是发出亚裔人的一种对待这个歧视亚裔的一种呼喊。但是会场上突然出现了一个不和谐的声音，是有一位老者，那么他带着不同的标语我不想解读了哈。那他是2种诉求，那么反对亚裔歧视的这些聚会的人用这个招牌阻挡他的招牌，结果就发生激烈的冲突。那么最终有一个愤怒的一个中年妇女上去，直接把这个标牌给扯掉了。一开始大家只是用标语来遮挡他，最终一位中年妇女直接是怒不可遏，上去直接把他的标牌给扯掉了。那么最后这位老者自己跌倒，那么然后没有任何肢体冲突。因为我视频有照嘛，从头至尾都有视频啊。这就说大部分人的众议的呼声会压制一部分人的啊。这就说大家都还是，你看这个人呢，赶紧捡一个塑料袋，有个塑料袋掉落到地上，你看马上就捡起来，不是，就是这个会场总而言之，总而言之还是很多是正义的声音，还是正义的呼喊啊。大家一看，这是一对哈，他们一直在这里面一直站立在这里面，就是沉默。因为这个其实今天来到现场，声音大小不重要，重要的是发出自己的声音，重要的是表达自己的诉求。我相信任何来到现场的人都想表达一种声音，这种声音你没必要是振臂高呼，也没必要喊出有多么响亮的口号，但是到了现场就是一种表达，到了现场就是一种无声的呼喊和无声的申诉。我想到现场比喊口号更重要，知道吗？就是口号不重要，重要的是你是用实际行动来支持。你看今天到达会场的人，你看非常自觉和自律，比如说戴口罩，保持距离，然后呢大家没有呐喊，但是不呐喊不代表没有发出呼声。开始了，这是主持人开始了。见到很多好朋友，还有好多熟悉的朋友在现场，虽然大家戴着口罩。现在应该正式开始了。We belong here, stop Asia's hate。很多标语就是表达反对亚裔歧视嘛。哎，这个挡住，今天其实老天非常眷顾亚裔人群啊。那么上午还是可以说大雨瓢泼，到中午的时候，义工组12点半到达了，义工组非常辛苦，12点半，但是还得下大雨。没想到1点多以后，可以说不下雨了，到现在开始出太阳了，艳阳高照了。这就说，还是说至少天气也是眷恋我们亚裔人啊发出的声音。看看，现在开始了啊，准备开始了。今天到场的很多媒体啊，你看，我给大家演一下，今天到场媒体特别多啊。这种声音不仅仅是亚裔人发出的呼喊，那么各种种族的人都可以来支持包括你看大家媒体上到场的人特别多哈，媒体到场多。看，其实看。
Yeah.
Hello? Everybody can hear me? Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
开始了哈，开始了，马上开始啊！主持人在这。
Good afternoon, Vancouver. Before we go any further, the first thing we have to do is spread out a little bit. We need 2 meters between every person, so let's make that happen first. Thanks so much.
Just spread out your arms,
大家开始保持2米
and
距
that will
离。
be around 2 meters wide or 6 feet wide. Just stretch out your 2 arms,
现在会场主动要求大家保持
and
2
you
米
will
距
have
离，
around 2 meters wide or 6 feet wide.
2米的距离，12尺的距离
Please
哈。
keep the social distance.
这是社交
Thank
距
you
离
so。much, and I can see everyone's wearing their mask, which is another requirement. That's awesome. And I know we don't have to say this because we're all gathered here to stop violence, but this is a peaceful protest without violence to end racism, starting now.
哦，
Thank you for coming out here. It's a bit of a mixed day. We had rain, and now we've got some light, but the biggest light we have is the light of love and community and solidarity that we have here together. A big circle of hope.
上午下雨，现在天气太阳了，这是一个大的一个
And we're
循环
going
啊
to。make the circle bigger. We're going to grow the circle of hope and of alliances and strength, and we're going to push out the hate. Let's grow the circle and push out the hate. Everybody, grow the circle.
Grow
Push
the
out the
circle.
hate.
这就是说给大家
Grow the circle. Push out the hate. Grow the circle. Push out the hate. Grow the circle. Push out the hate. Yes. All right. Let's hear it.
And can I please remind the person on the left wing, can you keep your social distance? 2 meters wide, 2 meters wide, stretch out your arms.
Obviously, if you are from the same household, yes, you can be beside each other. But other than that, keep your 2 meters. It's so important. Thank
保
you.
持2米的社交距离。哎，主持人不断提示啊。
We've got a lot of great speakers to talk about a lot of important stuff. The first thing I want to do, though, is I do want to introduce Mindy, my co-host. Mindy immigrated to Canada 20 years ago, and she is an active volunteer director of ASIA. Mindy. 好，终于可以说话了，因为声音太嘈杂了。就是在现场，大家可以看到，保持社交距离，主持人不断的提示。然后虽然大家看不见人，但是一双双眼睛，大家在表达了一种无声的诉求。 The volunteers at ASIA are collaborating with volunteers in other cities across the country for today's Stop Asian Hate Rally. The ASIA organizing group would like to thank all the volunteers and communities in Vancouver for all of their support and efforts, and all of you today. Thank you. Thank you.
今天到达会场的人明显比上次那个毛囊旺发起的，就是毛囊旺受虐待那一次警察虐待毛囊旺的人数远远多于上次集会，而且今天集会大家保持的社交距离也非常非常标准啊，几乎所有的人都戴口罩，而且主办方也给大家主动发了口罩。 组织的非常有序，这点真的很难得。大家可以看到呢，任何一个角落里面井然有序。啊，比如说大家佩戴口罩，老傅，看看，
Thank you. Thank you
很多熟悉的朋友都在这里面站起来表达声音。
We need to introduce the, chief who's coming
捕捉啊，
to break this into
任何一人，
one
你看这个镜头对着走过来的是西鲁商会的啊，中央会长。我想今天不必要太多的程序，你知道吗？程序越多，大家那待不住。但是只要出席了，简化程序就表达一种无声的诉求，这是最重要的。太多的语言并不能表达更多的诉求。哎，站出来，哎，走出来，这是表达了诉求了。每一次集会一般都会请原住民来表达一种和平的声音。包括上次猫囊王受警察虐待的集会，也是由原住民来声援。还有上次那个黑人命最贵啊，黑人命最贵的2次集会，我也参加了直播，也都是原住民参加。也就是说，原住民每次的集会都表达他们的诉求，他们是热爱和平，哎，欢迎多元文化，就是表达一种我们加拿大多元文化的诉求。你看，原住民每次都出来，保持一种支持的态度。我想，做什么都是重要的，就并不重要。重要的是，我们加拿大是一种包容的社会，多元文化的社会。所以今天大家可以看到会场上有更多的各种种族的人都来参加这种集会，用这种实际行动来声援，反对歧视亚裔。好，我下去给大家做直播了。
Creator, we give you thanks for a good day. And Creator, we give you thanks for all our relatives here today. Oh, hi-yo, oh, hi-yo, oh, hi-yo, hey. I always, in our culture and our traditions, it's very important that we acknowledge our family, our children, our grandfathers and our grandmothers, and the ones that yet are unborn. We want to bring them in a good way to this world, to end the violence and racism in our families and in our nations across the continent, the Turtle Island, and around the world. And I'm grateful to have my wife here with me, Trish Morale, that supports me in a lot of things I do. Oh, hi-yo, oh, hi-yo, oh, hi-yo, hey. I'm really grateful to have some friends. James Wood, I've had the opportunity to travel firsthand across the land to China, and when I was over there I was treated with respect and I was acknowledged and treated really well. I bring that message back to my First Nations communities wherever I travel, that that I've been treated really good over there. And shown that respect from our relatives over there. Oh, hi-yo, oh, hi-yo, oh, hi-yo, hey. In our language we say, to help us be good and strong. I'm grateful that each and every one of you are out here today that come to stand together in solidarity, come to stand together to support
今天的标语有各种诉求，但是一个主要诉求就是反对亚裔歧视，这个大家可以看到。还有一个保护亚洲的妇女，看一下啊，看一下这个标语，这种诉求是 Protect Asia Woman 啊，就是保护亚洲妇女。Protect Asia Woman，
Thank you very much for letting me a few minutes to speak.
我刚才说了，每次的集会都会有
Thank you, Chief Archie.
我们当地的原住民站起来表达诉求，支持这个和平，支持一种多元文化。
Next, we're going to hear from Jenna Yu, who is going to read a letter from ASIA, an open letter to the public from ASIA. Jenna Yu is a grade 11 student from Collingwood School. She's a member of Team BC and competes in the National Public Speaking Championship. She's interested in social justice has been volunteering in social justice work for quite a long time for such a young person. So without any further ado, here's Jenna.
Jenny 代表年轻人发出亚洲人的呼声他也常年是 college 一个学生，然后常年做义工代表年轻人发出这呼声。
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We stand here today mourning all of those who lost their lives in Atlanta and all of those who have lost lives due to racist hate crimes. Our hearts bleed when we see reports of violence and threats all across the world. And over what? Our race? Our culture? Being Asian? We are deeply saddened and disturbed by the increased incidence of racism against members of our Asian communities. Last year, anti-Asian hate crimes rose by 717% in Vancouver and by 150% in major cities in the United States. Right here in Vancouver, a 92-year-old Asian man suffering from dementia was brutally thrown out of a convenience store and onto the ground by a man who shouted racist remarks. An Asian minor waiting at a bus stop on Granville Street was punched in the face for no reason at all. Asian-run businesses have had cruel and hateful words spray-painted across their storefronts. This pandemic has weakened our economy with lost jobs and shuttered businesses. As we endure this crisis, we all share the same feelings of fear and uncertainty and not knowing what lies ahead. But hope has persisted. We see hope because healthcare workers risk their lives to protect us, our families, and the most vulnerable individuals in our communities. We see hope because we have the courage to stand here today, united as Canadians, to protest against violence and racism and to protect our nation's core values of equality, respect, and justice. We gather today because we have chosen hope over fear, unity over conflict, respect over hatred. For over 200 years, immigrants from Asia, along with immigrants from other parts of the world, have made important contributions to shape Canada as we know it today. In Vancouver, over 70% of the very nurse aides that have shown immense bravery are immigrants, and half of them are of Asian origin. As a country, we thrive by recognizing the value and dignity of Canadians of all races and ethnic groups. However, if we are not careful, our Canadian values and the dignity of Canadians of all races and ethnic groups could be threatened. Our Canadian values and the freedoms that we take for granted today could be taken away from us. We have to do more to stop violence and hatred, to respond to the cries for justice, to change. It's time for action. In the face of our common crisis, let us remember who we are. Let us stand together and let us gain the courage to protect our future of peace and dignity. Asian Canadians, we asked you to fight against violence and racism together. To our government, we ask you to prosecute hate crimes with tightened penalties. To our police force, we ask you to respond immediately to cries for justice to protect women and elders. Canadians, we ask you to join us in our fight to protect our human rights, to protect our future, and to protect our nation's values of equality, respect, and justice. United, we shall carry forth the precious gift of freedom and core Canadian values for generations to come. Now, all of us together, Asian rights are human rights. Stop anti-Asian racism. Vancouver racism-free. Make BC racism-free. And make Canada racism-free. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you, Jenna, for your wonderful reading for the voices of our heart. Next, we'll have our Ujao docent. He's from Indian Canadian community, and he was the BC 33rd Premier.
这谁呀？他谁呀？啊。
Thank you very much. I came to Canada in 1968 after about 3 years in Britain. It was old Pierre Trudeau who had just become the Prime Minister of Canada at that time. I've been to hundreds of meetings on equality, on human rights, on racism. This country has a history of racist exclusion. We've been all fighting it, and this is one of the best scenes I've seen in a long, long time. I know it's about tragedies that are happening, but I'm so glad that all of you are here to make your voices heard, that we want an end to racism in Canada. To those who yell at fellow Canadians who look like Asians, who are Asians, those people who yell at them to go home, let me give them a message. I think I've earned the right to give this message. I've been around a long time, around the block a few times too. Asian community has been here for over 150 years. They are as Canadian as anyone else in this country. They are here to stay. So I say to those who say go home, contend with your racism, cleanse your racism, clean yourself up, and become a good Canadian like all of us are. Racism demeans people. It takes people's dignity away from people. It dehumanizes you. We all know about the Kamagata Maru and the Chinese hattacks and the Japanese concentration camps. We all know that. If we didn't do what we're doing today, then the road leads there. So it's so important. It's so important to do what you're doing today. It's so important. Let me give a message to parliamentarians in Ottawa and in all of the provincial legislatures and the territories. They should have a motion in each and every legislature of this country and the parliament of this country condemning racism and hate against Asians. And let me say something else to politicians, because I was one at one time myself. I've seen politicians, they like to keep us in silos. I've seen politicians go to the Chinese community, go to the Indian community, go to the Vietnamese community or the Japanese community, wear their dresses, speak a few words of their languages, and talk about multiculturalism. I have never seen them to go to a meeting downtown of business community and talk about multiculturalism. I've never seen them going to regular meetings and speaking Chinese or speaking Punjabi or speaking Japanese and saying, we have multiculturalism in Canada, it is the strength of Canada, diversity is the strength of Canada. I've never seen them do that, because politicians like to have us in silos, in different communities, so they can talk to us. So I have a message for politicians. They need to stand up and talk about multiculturalism, equality, and diversity from one end of the country, from sea to sea to sea.
阿基哈，双枪阿基，今天是我们的最大的保安头子，双枪阿基，今天他做保安。刚才是 CCTV 中央电台接受采访啊。
And I say to politicians one more thing. You know, politics is about winning elections. I know that. I know politicians need to win elections to make change. But once you win elections, please, stand for something. Make some change. Say something to Canadians to change our hearts and minds about racism, about the evil of exclusion. You know, we have a bad history in this country. From First Nations to the Chinese Canadians to the Indo-Canadians to the Japanese Canadians, you name it. We have a history. It's not a glorious history. We need to actually learn from that history, and politicians need to learn from that history. Stand up each and every day in the legislatures of this country, in the meetings in this country, and condemn racism, support diversity, support equality, real equality. Not just have Chinese food or Indian food and go home and think that that's done. Oh! Real equality. Oh. Equality beyond food and dress. Equality beyond simply speaking a few words of your language. We want real equality. It's time that you politicians delivered that equality for us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier Desange. A lot of faces. Well, a lot of eyes anyway. I see a lot of eyes. And we're all going to cheer and feel good and maybe get some anger going. And then once we leave here, we're going to do more good. We're going to call that politician. We're going to send that email. And we're going to tell people that the hate and the racism starts stopping today.
中英文对照，我没必要给大家翻译了，定格一下行了哈。
Good question. Here's a politician for you right now.
Thank you.
In MLA, Teresa Watt has represented Richmond Centre and successfully in 2013 became the MLA for Richmond Centre, and then again was reelected in 2017 and in 2020. She currently serves as the official opposition critic for tourism, arts and culture, and anti-racism initiatives. Let's hear it for Ms. Watt.
省议员曲洁冰上来开始讲话了。
How's everybody? This afternoon. Let's say one more time, free Canada of racism. Free BC of racism. No more racism all over the world. Well, my name is Teresa Watt. In Chinese is Wat Ge Bing Qi Jie Bing. I'm glad I speak after Wu Zhou, my former boss. I joined the provincial government as a bureaucrat in 1996, and Wu Zhou was the Minister of Attorney General and Minister responsible for multiculturalism. And I joined the ministry as a communication manager. And I never have any interest in serving British Columbia until Wu Zhou sowed the seed into my brain. And that's why I'm who I am. I'm glad that today I saw Wu Zhou here delivering such a compassionate speech before me. I must admit that I can't match him. He is always my mentor, somebody I admire. And I'm glad that today he comes here to speak to all of you. Let me give you a little bit about my background before I go into my speech that I wrote last night. I'm going to still deliver it. I came to this beautiful province in 1989
So I've been here for more than 30 years, much older than many of you here. And yet, because I speak English with an accent, and obviously I look like a
坐着
Chinese.
轮椅的啊，
And whenever
表达
I
诉
walk
求。
around downtown or anywhere in
我
British
是下一个吗？
Columbia, people always ask me, where
Am
are
I
you
next?
from? They will never ask somebody who are immigrants from Europe because they look like Canadians, they are white people. They assume that they are Canadians. But somebody like me, who has been here for more than 30 years and make this my home, and I'm always being labeled as a foreigner. Do you think this is fair?
Am I next？ 我是下一个吗？
I know I cannot get rid of my accent because I'm not young anymore, but I'm proud of my accent. I think the fact that I
这是今天的主要组织者小贝拉啊，我也是第一次见到她，小贝拉，我们的今天主要组织者之一，小贝拉女士啊。We belong here, stop Asia hate.
Responsible for multiculturalism. Would I have to correct you? I always talk about the advantage of multiculturalism. When I was a minister of international trade, I always talk to the mainstream community, telling them that because we're immigrants coming from all over the world, in particular from Asia Pacific, that's why we have the
小姑娘站在
advantage of being
站在
one
这个
of the
墩子
Asia
上啊，
Pacific, of the only Asia Pacific
高高站起
nation.
表达诉
And
求。
that's why you can pursue trade with Asia Pacific, not only to Europe, because of our immigrants from all over Asia Pacific. They have their personal, family, and business relationship there, and they know how to do business with Asia Pacific countries, and they are our assets.
很多人默默地站在角落里，表达一种无声的诉求。其实今天很多政客站起来支持这个活动，这是值得啊，值得我们可以说双手表扬的。但是更多的人还是默默无声的发出诉求。
My husband, my late husband, passed away in 2011. He was my classmate in university.
这是省议员曲洁兵啊，特瑞萨旭。
Different from me. Involved in student movement. Well, I'm from Hong Kong, but I'm just a straight A student. I never cared about politics. I never cared about social movement. And I'm just studying. So when my late husband, Stephen, was struck with cancer in 2003, he passed away in 2011. He
CTV、
has been talking to me
本地的
all
电
those
视台
years, telling me, Teresa,
CBC 两家电
one
视台
of
都
these
到
days
场
when
啊。
I'm up in the
一是
heaven,
本地电视
and
台
you have no
CTV
more
和
burden
CBC
when our daughter has grown up, your
都
parents
到现
are
场来声
also,
援。
well, healthy. You should come out and serve the community. Because we got so much out from Canada, it's time when I'm in heaven, you don't have to look after me. You go and serve British Columbia just like any other Canadian. And that's why I went into politics in 2013. I hope you don't see me as a typical elected official. I don't get into politics for money or for reputation or for fame. I got into politics because I want to show Canadians as an immigrant. I want to give back in return to this country. I don't want my children and my grandchildren to be like us right now. They're being discriminated against and being spat against and not being seen as
其他族裔的
Canadian
年轻人也
anybody
来支持啊
who are，
举着自己的自治标语。
also as foreigners into this country except our First Nations. So who are those people to say that go back home, go back to where you come from?
3个年轻的其他族裔年轻人啊，举着自治标语表达诉求啊
Thank you to
支
each
持
and
啊支
every
持
one of you to come out here on a Sunday afternoon. When I came out, it was all raining, pouring, windy. Look at it now. We begin to see sunshine. I hope that after today, we don't have to have any more rally to talk about racism again. I'm not going to read my speech because I
这是非裔的人也站起来支持啊，表达诉求，一起来支持我们亚裔人。这个老者一直自己举着，你看非常。
Next guest, let's welcome.
一只双手啊，非常虔诚的啊，非常有力的举着这个招牌，难能可贵。其实很辛苦的，你看一直举着啊。
TV news veteran communication expert, and she's also a filmmaker. And also, we have her husband, that's the longest serving mayor of Vancouver, Greg Robertson, also coming at our side.
各个种族的很多人都来支持哈，你看这也是。
I wanted to begin by saying how overwhelmed I've been by the outpouring of support.
各个族裔的人都会有人来支持，你看。
All over Canada. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, truly.
这老朋友哈，老朋友来拍我了。今天遇到很多的朋友。
Moment in our history. Never have I seen the voices of Asian people elevated and empowered in this way. It's an unprecedented time for our community. And it's significant because historically, Asian voices like mine have been silenced, have been ridiculed, and when we do speak out,
这是亚洲特
we
色
are
啊。
ashamed. We are called opportunists. We are called
这个
self-serving.
创意很好，你看亚洲特色。
But the time for our silence is up. And Asian women in particular. Oh my gosh. Last week, when 8 people died in Atlanta, 6 of them are Asian sisters, I think I collectively heard millions and millions of people around the world wake up. And it has awoken in me a rage that has caused me to speak out on something that I feel incredibly uncomfortable talking about, which is the historical fetishization and hypersexualization of Asian women in the context of keeping us marginalized. Little did I know, by speaking out about my shame,
Branch Lee 啊，李小龙 ，Branch Lee 也过来表达诉求了啊。我们亚洲人在海外的一个形象代表 ，Branch Lee 啊，李小龙啊。
This has happened to me over and over and over again. And that alone has empowered me to speak out even more. I am proud to be Asian. I am proud to be Korean. My Korean name is Pak Rin. And for too long, I have hidden that. For too long, I was ashamed of looking like a foreigner, because that is what society has said that we are for far too long. But we belong here. And we join our brothers and sisters in the Black community, in our Indigenous community, in other marginalized communities.
今天各个族裔的人都过来啊，声援啊，表达一种诉求。
Everyone who wants to join us and speak out against hate, against human rights violations, against systemic racism that have kept us oppressed for too long. I'm talking about housing, immigration policy,
老妇啊，很多地方都会看到老妇的身影。今天音响是老妇提供的，我们的安保人员啊，这个阿基啊，最大今天的安保头子，安保啊。
I want to speak directly to those who have met this movement with opposition, with scorn. I want to say, join us or get out of our way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eileen Park. Let's hear it. And it's true. We're not just one group. We're not just one color. We're not just one gender. United we stand, together we fight. Everybody, united we stand, together we fight. United we stand, together we fight. United we stand, together we fight. All right. Next, we're going to hear a statement from Vancouver Mayor Kennedy Stewart's office, presented by Ms. Joanne May. Ms. Joanne May is a dedicated volunteer with ASIA, and she's going to speak to us now. Let's hear it from Ms. Joanne May.
Hello.
七路商会的钟燕啊，钟会长，每次都能看到
I'm
他
a。Canadian, a BC resident for almost 30 years. I feel very grateful and fortunate to live and work in BC and call BC home, like everybody else here. Now I'm honored to read a statement from the Mayor of Vancouver, Kennedy Stewart. On behalf of the City of Vancouver, I want to thank you all for being here today to show up and speak out against anti-Asian hate. I also want to send my regret and apologize for not being able to attend in person. The recent numbers of anti-Asian hate crimes rising from 717% brings attention to an angering yet
现
important
在
fact.
袁伟姐要接受采访啊，她在这儿，
And hate lurk in our city.
因为她接受采访没法戴口罩。
We need to speak out against it. Hatred and violence have no place here.
因为接受采访时戴口罩没法发音啊，袁伟姐啊，袁伟姐
And
接受采访。
bigotry are not welcome here. As allies, we have a responsibility to stand up and use our voice. We must push back on white supremacy and stand together with our neighbors that are hurting. As a city, we recognize our history of globalism and expanded racism. And for the city, and so the city understands we have a serious role to play in ending this war and moving backward forward in collaboration with effective communities. In response to anti-Asian racism, we have been hosting discussions with community leaders to identify actions the city can take to support a number of issues. The community has already made clear these include
自己已经不是，好像不是加拿大人，那么这根本不是违背了我们加拿大的初衷。我们加拿大是拥抱多元文化，拥抱所有的，就是说，不管你是从哪个国家来的背景，我们加拿大其实是非常非常欢迎移民的。我们的移民在未来走的路线是比任何一个省，刚才我说的像我们的南方。
And we continue doing outreach to organizations and businesses in Chinatown to ensure they have the support they need. In Vancouver,
这个今天会场上都会遇到很多老朋友，站起来发声支持。
with people of all backgrounds, sharing their vibrant cultures and languages. It is an honor to be connected with a place made of so many strong and resilient communities. Everyone has a right to feel safe in our city. Nobody should be faced with
今
discrimination
天的主要组织者
or
小
be
贝拉。
verbally or physically harmed because of their race. Thank you to the organizers of this event and everyone who is supporting both physically and virtually. By working together, we can stamp out the hate and create a city that is safe for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joanne May. We're going to move right along to our next speaker, Wendy Yuan, who represents speaking for the Chinese Canadian community. Wendy is deeply committed to her adopted country, Canada. She has served on the boards of several nonprofits and is also involved in the Liberal Party of Canada, having run in 2008 as a candidate for Vancouver Kingsway. So let's give a big round of applause to Wendy Yuan. Wendy.
温迪啊，温迪姐啊，杨薇姐上台啊，这老朋友了啊，温迪姐，很多活动都能看到温迪姐的身影啊。哎，袁姐加油！啊，老朋友了，杨薇姐啊，她一上来人气很高，大家都会。
Good afternoon, everyone. Today we stand here in the rain, mourning the lost lives in Atlanta. It is with very heavy heart when we see the recent sharp increase of anti-Asian violence, racism, hate crimes against members of our Asian community across the United States and Canada. Last year alone, anti-Asian crime rose by 717% in Vancouver. I repeat, 717% alone in 1 year.
Oh, 17%, wow,
This statistics is alarming. There should be no place for this in our society. Many of us feel sad, angry, scared, and uncertain of what lies ahead. Many cannot but ask, what is going on in our society? As Canadians, we're always proud of our core values of equality, respect, and social justice. United by these Canadian values, we stand together and we have built Canada as a great nation that embraces all these core values. We Canadians look out for each other and we take care of our families and most vulnerable population in our communities. Our healthcare workers risk their lives to protect us. Did you know that in Vancouver, over 70% of our nurse aides are the immigrants, are in fact immigrants, and half of them are Asian descent.
这是个面罩。
Yeah, you can do that. Yes. You know what? They're people like you and me. And yes, these are the people who work on the front line to fight for the rest of us, and especially during the challenging time of COVID-19. We gathered today because we've chosen hope over fear, unity over divide, and love over hate. For hundreds of years, immigrants from Asia, like my husband's great-grandpa, who came to Canada to build the Canadian Pacific Railway, paid high tax, fought in the Second World War for Canada, made important contributions to shape Canada as we know it today, along with immigrants from other parts of the world. As a nation, we thrive by recognizing the values and dignity of Canadians of all races, regardless of where they came from, the color of their skin, and their ethnicity.
又来到这个拍到这个拖轮椅的小姑娘了。她说：“你现在不站起来发声，下一个就轮到我啊。” Am I next?
Being put at risk now more than ever. When those racist remarks like "Go back to your countries," China virus, Kung flu are thrown at us, they're designed to make you feel like the perpetual foreigners. Sadly, when you're made a foreigner in your own country, you're dehumanized, you're not taken seriously, and if there is a crime committed against you or your community, even law enforcement might dismiss it as the perpetrator is just having a bad day. It's time for real action. In the face of our common crisis, let us remember who we are. Let us stand together. Let us gain the courage to protect our future of peace and dignity. Let us fight against the violence and racism together. We ask our government to prosecute hate crimes with tougher penalties. Call on the parliament to put stop Asian hate bill into legislation. We ask our police force to respond immediately to crisis for justice to protect women and elders. We ask Canadians to join us to protect our human rights, our common future as a nation of equality, respect, and social justice. United, we shall carry forth the precious gift of freedom and core Canadian values for generations to come. United, we have a new book to write, a book that shows our strength, our determination to see a world here in Canada and elsewhere, a world where you and all of us are equal in every way. Let us not shy away. Let us stand as one. Let us, now all of us together, shall we? Asian rights are human rights. Stop Asian hate. Stop Asian hate. I'm proud to be Asian. I belong here. Thank you all.
袁姐啊，袁姐的演讲，袁姐演讲非常有 power， 非常有力量啊。袁妹的演讲确实非常有力量，她就这个号召力啦、言语了、措辞了，你看。
And next, let's welcome our Hollywood actor, Ludi Lin. Ludi Lin is an Asian Canadian actor and whose credits include Aquaman, Power Rangers, and upcoming model comeback for Warner Brothers. And he is currently shooting the TV series Kung Fu
in Vancouver.
哇，中国功夫啊！好。哇，中国功夫。
My name is Ludi Lin.
布鲁利 ，Branch Lee。
Lin Ludi.
林鲁利。
I've never been ashamed of my name. When I started learning English, I spoke with an accent. I was never ashamed of my accent. When I was a kid, I believed that despite all of our various differences, we are all the same. And I still believe that. Our ancestors came to this land over 200 years ago. After bloody conflicts, we didn't come to break, man. We came to build. Fresh off the boat, we started building ships, railways. We built the infrastructure of this country. Our sweat and our blood poured the foundation of this country. Our hearts made the connection that shaped this multicultural tapestry. We worked hard because there was a lot of work to do. We were successful. There's a lot to prove. But our success was met with jealousy, fear, and not fear. That hate was legitimized by laws, by racist laws, such as the Chinese head tax, the Chinese Exclusion Act. Shame!
哇，这么老的天，他还穿短袖，确实练功夫的不一样啊。练功
They
夫。
called Dominion Day, which became a day of humiliation for us. Shame! I believe we need oxygen to breathe for our bodies. We need love for our spirits. We need to be able to freely express and accept ourselves for our culture to thrive.
这义工为了保护设备，你看，很辛苦啊。为了保护设备不受雨淋。
Shame! Shame! Stop Asian hate! Stop Asian hate! Stop stereotyping us! Stop dehumanizing us! Recognize us! Stop Asian hate! Show Asian love!
Good job, guys. Good job. Look in the mirror. Stay here to support people. Good job.
Guys, if you step away, he'll walk away.
OK。
So there you go.
告诉我们他们走了，不让我们追随啊！这个警察其实警察处理事情非常有经验。他说这个人走了，你们不要给追随了，就让我们 stop。
Yeah, I would have knocked his ass.
Your bag's open.
每次都会有插曲啊。这对年轻人一直是相拥在一起啊，相互扶持，相互支持啊。
We built a new identity
就是练功夫的人不一样，你看这么冷的天穿短袖啊，你看。
Because we knew that the pain is easier to swallow when it's shared. Just like food. That's why we eat with chopsticks. But now, we're under attack again. This isn't new. In the last world pandemic, Asians are blamed as well. Just instead of eating bats, they said we're eating rats then. People who are fearful and ignorant react irrationally. They attack our elders and our women because they think they're weak. But they're wrong. If you think our elders are weak, if you need proof to see they're strong, just look at Grandma Michelle from Brooklyn that opened again of her old friend, a whoop ass on her side. If you want to see how strong our women are, just look at the Asian woman in this crowd. My mom shows me every day. And so now we're here. And today, I'm asking all of our brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters, and I don't care what color you are, whether you're black, brown, Asian, white, to stand with us and end this without proper acceptance of our culture and freedom of expression. We can't breathe! So, stop dehumanizing us. Stop humiliating us. Stop stereotyping us. We're human beings and we want to live. Stop Asian hate. Show Asian love. Live. Thrive. End racism. Imagine if we just took one day off from work to stand by our brothers and sisters in this protest. Show the world that we can make a difference. What a world that would be. We're getting stronger individually as different nations. But what's the point of getting stronger just to fight each other? Live for the oldest race. Stand for the oldest race and the only race that matters. As the one human race. Thank you.
这小伙子真是壮啊！这么冷的天穿短袖，哈哈。Let's hear it again for Ludi Lin.
Our next speaker is Mr. David Young. He's going to be reading a statement from the BC Premier John Horgan's office. So David?
这一对从一开始到现在一直站这个地方。
Registered professional engineer in BC and an active volunteer director of ASEA. Let's hear it for David.
这队从我直播到现在一直站在这个地方啊，这多长时间
Thank you.
？75分
Thank
钟
you
了，
everyone to come out today.
应该是今天聚会上
Statement
最
for
持久、
immediate release
最虔诚的一队。
Ministry of Attorney General, March 28, 2021.
默默无声的一直75分钟。
Secretary's statement
好冷，
on anti-Asian racism.
还比较冷了。
Victoria. Rachana Singh, Parliamentary Secretary for Anti-Racism Initiatives, has released the following statement on anti-racism in response to the recent shootings in the United States and various rallies happening across this country. Xiao Jie Tan, Da Yu Feng, Yun Yung Grant, Zhong Chun Park, Sancha Kim, Yung Ai Yu, Paul Andrew Michels, Elena Ashley Yuan. We remember them. The shootings that took the lives of 8 innocent people in Atlanta, Georgia, recently happened in the US. But we are not immune to anti-Asian racism in Canada. From the high tax to numerous attacks against people of Asian descent. During the COVID-19 pandemic,
现在又开始下雨了，天又开始冷起来了，特别冷。现在天又开始下雨了，又冷起来了，是吧？哎，今天最辛苦的义工啊，这个义工最辛苦，一直上帝女儿刘凤娇
and at worst, complicity.
又下雨了。
Anti-Asian hate crimes increased by over 700% compared to last year in Vancouver. Like all hate crimes, these numbers likely underrepresent the true scale of the problem throughout our province. This leaves a lasting impact that hurts manually and physically. But we are strong. The Asian community has demonstrated inspiring resiliency. The strength and the spirit of our communities will not be diminished. We must speak up against racism. When we say it as uncomfortable as it is, we will not.
直播马上将近80分钟了。今天天气忽冷忽热，刚才是艳阳高照，现在又开始下雨了，而且起风了，特别冷。会场上能坚持到现在人真的不容易。我捕捉到这一对啊，从一开始我直播的时候啊，到现在一直站在这个地方。我把镜头拉近啊，这对从开始直播到现在，大家回顾一下，这对一直站在这个地方。这应该是今天会场最虔诚、最持久啊、最给力的一对儿。你看，哎呀，很冷呢，他们也是冻得要命，你看上下吧。说是今天能到现场的，就是一种支持啊，不一定能站到上面来发声，站在上面来讲话。但是我想，从开始到现在，能来到会场的人，就是一种最有力的支持啊。申请了1个半小时，应该快结束了。我认为时间差不多了，因为太久了，这种集会不宜于太长时间。我想组织者应该会结束这场集会的，因为太久了，大家也太冷，再一个也不适合太久，包括聚会安全等措施了。申请了1个半小时，我想应该结束了。这就是考验组织者的一种智慧了。对。
We've got a couple of sisters, a couple of young women, Rachel and Megan Kwan. They've lived here their whole lives. They were inspired, so they approached us and they said they just want to say a few words. So let's support them. Let's give it up for Rachel and Megan.
角落里的警察啊，警察一直在这。
Hi, I'm Rachel. We came here with no speech prepared, but what we can offer is our lived
远
experience.
处还有一组啊，2组警察。
Thank you for standing out here in the cold and giving us the space to share our thoughts.
这边还有一组警察。
Just around the corner here, I was
还有一
working
组
at
啥？
Phil's
第3组。
and a man approached me and asked
然后在那个角落是第4组，看了吗？
He
第
asked
4组
me,
警察。
you speak really good English.
总共4组警察啊，4组。
I know a lot of you have gotten this comment before.
4组警察。
But I respond, I didn't know how to respond. I didn't have the heart to tell them that we've lived our entire lives. When our parents came from Hong Kong, they wanted us to assimilate so that we could stand.
媒体也逐渐我看着也散去了，他们不一定从头到尾。
Some coworkers approached me and asked why I wasn't as cheerful and as happy as I usually am. The face I usually put on when I work with a crew of over 100 white people. I said to him, there was a shooting in Atlanta and we lost a couple of
直播了81分钟了，马上82分钟了。
He said to me,
一直在线的这个
at
基
least
本
it's
上3
happening over there and not here.
太冷了。
But it's happening here. And every microaggression and every word and violence towards us.
马上下冰雹的感觉呢。
That is violence.
哇！
When you ask me what kind of Asian I am before you ask my name, that is dehumanizing. It is telling us where we fit in society. When you put us at the back of the restaurant and feed us last, that is telling us where we stand. But we are all here today to say we belong here. And we belong as much as anybody else does. Yeah, I also didn't prepare anything. But I'm Megan. This is my memoir. I'm the judge. Growing up in Steveston, where there was still a, good representation of Asians, to still be isolated and to still be asked where you're from or what type of Asian are you. To go on a first date and someone be like, oh, are you kinky like the rest of you? That's fucked. Fuck your yellow fever. I've been grieving with all of you. These past few weeks have been heavy. I haven't left my bed. The pain we feel is from deep within, from our ancestors. We carry the pain of our ancestors, and it's been triggered, and it's been brought up. And while we inherit the pain that we get from our grandparents and our great-grandparents, our mamas and our pipoas, we also inherit a lot of the resilience. I have shrunk into spaces smaller than what I am, and I'm so tired. I'm so tired of being quiet. I'm so tired of trying to make people feel comfortable. I'm tired. So when you're silent, when your friends are silent, when your friend is telling you that it's not that bad, when I had growing up people being like, oh, you're not like other Asian people. Who cares? But then I get yelled and called a chink from across the parking lot by a complete stranger. Shame! freaky ass white dudes who have children that come up to me and go, "Are you Vietnamese?" What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? Fuck your yellow fever. This is my home. This is our home. We belong here. We belong here.
I'm proud of us, and I can say we can end this with our generation. This ends now. Thank you so much.
Check. Well, let's hear it for those two brave young women. They just apologized for a few swear words. I don't think they're the people who should be apologizing for anything today. It's amazing. We're now going to hear from Steve Din for closing and thanks.
现在下雨了啊，起风了。能坚持到会场的人不容易啊，非常冷。风也特别大。哇，还有这么多演讲的。
March 16, 2021 is the darkest day in North America. 80 innocent people were massacred in Atlanta City. 6 of them are Asian American women.
他们很辛苦，你看没戴手套，你看多冷，一直站在这，好辛苦。没有手套，你看一直动啊，我这个手好像动都动了。
During the same period of the shooting, our elderly Asian grandmothers and grandfathers were still being attacked brutally on the street. Here in Vancouver, the hate crimes against Asian Canadians were up by 770% in the last year.
哇，风好大！
We cannot remain silent anymore.
Oh.
Wake up! We must use our platforms and voices to condemn and fight against all hate crimes. Whether it's based on race, color of skin, gender, religion, age, national origin, or ancestry, ethnicity, or physical characteristics, etc. As Asian Canadian, the importance of the diversity, equality, and health of the community cannot be understated. It has a direct impact on both our individual and the social well-being. I want to tell those who believe that hate and violence against innocent people is the solution for their own misfortune. You are wrong. Hate is virus, not people. Elderly Asian grandmothers and grandfathers won't give you anything but shame. It's pathetically cowardliness. Where you are attacking Asian Canadians, you are attacking those who build community for you. You are attacking those who fight for you. You are attacking those who save your life in hospital. So don't speak on your own foot. When we face problem together, we believe only love, cooperation, and unity is the remedy. Hate and violence will not deter us from seeking justice for all the people. No matter what his or her background is, hate and violence will not deter us from fighting against all forms of racism. Hate and violence will not deter us from calling all Canadians to build a beautiful community without division and resentment. For Asian community, please step out from the illusion of model minority. This is not honor, this is toxic. We encourage all of you to stand together against racism. No one is safe until everyone is. Silence is Please don't be afraid to report. Call police exposed to media.
起风了，哇！不行了，赶紧的！哎呀，哇，这个太大了。
Stand in solidarity to support each other against the racism and hate crimes.
这个起风太大了。哇，这个又冷又冻。哎呀，这个义工们都很辛苦，你看，坚持站在上面啊，我觉得。这个人，看他们站在上面多辛苦，不然手拢啊，不戴手套的，好辛苦啊，冻死了。哇，坚持到最后的人是最值得尊敬的人啊！可以了，我觉得应该结束了，太冷了。
It's going to take more than a little bit of Vancouver rain to kill all this Vancouver love. And the best thing I can tell you is that all is over. We're now going to hear a song called Hate is Virus. We're going to fire up right now.
还有演讲呢。这个时候考验主持人的智慧了哈，我觉得应该适时的这个结束这场聚会了。现在又冷又起风又下雨，你看，结束了。这是考验我们主持人的智慧了。这个时候总结是最好的。现在场地的人越来越少了。今天这个聚会应该是到此结束了啊，比较圆满啊。这上帝的女儿刘凤娇，她经常各种场合都出现，你看，坚持到最后，看看这个，我背对着这个，现在要大家一起合影啊。
more you think, what's more you do. When you feel sad and living crazy, we are not right. Hey, it's a virus. We are only parents and children. We need love and justice. We are not right. Hey, it's a virus. Such virus is disgusting. And the violence against the Asians still gets if it comes a day you love me, fucking love us through. It's trapped in madness. What's more you think? What's more you do? Why do you feel sad and crazy? We are virus. Hey, the virus. We are only parents and children. We need love and justice. We are not virus. Hey, the
好，这里是温哥华，这里是老叶直播。温哥华时间是周日的下午4点啊，整个直播到此结束啊，谢谢各位，因为时间长达1半小时。这是一场反对歧视亚裔的聚会，那么时间长达1半小时，进展比较顺利啊。当然会场也有一些小的插曲，但最终是圆满结束。弟兄们也很辛苦，组织的也非常有序啊，整个活动非常紧凑。那么当然这个刚开始时候还阳光明媚，现在一种风雨交加啊，风雨交加，现在已经进入收尾阶段了。 所有的义工和整个参与者都是在大合影了啊，大聚会了。下雨了，哎呀，下雨了，这是整个聚会的全体合影阶段啊，结束了，已经结束了。好，谢谢各位啊，谢谢各位。本场直播到这，因为大背景声音一直到达，我很少旁白，很少解说。好，谢谢。
We stood up for love and unity.